Namaste. I am Dr. Vijayalakshmi, Assistant Professor in Samskrita from Mahatma Gandhi Memorial College, Udupi. I have prepared this paper under the guidance of my research guide, Dr. Srinivasan Acharya, Head, Department of Philosophy, Mahe, Manipal. I welcome you all to this presentation on the theme Ahara and Achara, Principles of Food and Responsible Consumption in Classical Indian Thought. Food is not merely about calories, nutrition, or taste. In Indian tradition, food, ahara, is deeply connected with conduct, achara. It is not just a biological necessary, but a moral, spiritual, and ecological act. The ancient texts from Vedas and Upanishads to Bhagavad Gita and Ayurvedic Samhitas repeatedly remind us that what we eat shapes not only our body but also our mind, our community, and even the balance of cosmos. Today, I will explore how classical Indian traditions understood food as both matter and meaning, and how these principles can guide us in facing modern challenges of overconsumption, waste, and sustainability. Research objectives. First one, to analyze how the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Ayurveda collectively present food as a medium of ethics, responsibility, and sustainability. Second one, to examine how different philosophical schools, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, Sankhya, and Yoga, interpret food related verses and how their perspectives converge towards a unified food ethic. Third one, to establish the contemporary relevance of classical Indian food philosophy in addressing responsible consumption, sustainability, and global food ethics. In line with these objectives, research questions are set. First one, how do the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Ayurveda conceptualize food in relation to ethics, health, and spirituality? Second one, in what ways do interpretations across philosophical schools differ and where do they converge in food ethics on food ethics? Third one, how can the Indian knowledge system's vision of food inform contemporary notions of responsible consumption and sustainability? Methodology. The study follows a textual, analytical, and hermeneutical methodology. The key primary sources include Bhagavad Gita, a major Upanishads, especially Chandogya and Taittiriya, Ayurveda, primarily Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, and Ashtanga Hridaya Samhita. The interpretive method involves examining how different schools of Indian philosophy, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, Vedanta, Sankhya, and Yoga comment on or align with these texts. The study also employs a comparative critical analysis, tracing the similarities across schools, identifying divergences, and synthesizing a coherent vision of responsible consumption. Secondary sources such as contemporary scholarship on sustainability, ecoethics, and Indian philosophy are interpreted to ensure relevance to modern contexts. Analysis. Different schools of Indian philosophy interpret food within their broader metaphysical visions. Advaita Vedanta, it universalizes food ethics as part of Brahman realization. Eating becomes a sacrament when one recognizes the non duality of the eater, the eaten, and the act of eating. The strength here lies in the universality, although it sometimes risks neglecting practical ecological responsibilities. Then Vishishtadvaita Vedanta, it treats food as a divine prasada. Acharya Ramanuja insists that food, when offered to God, becomes sanctified and it purifies the one who consumes it. This consumption is transformed into devotion, making eating an act of grace and service. Then Dvaita Vedanta, it grounds food ethics in devotion and divine accountability. Food is the gift of God, and misuse or overconsumption is seen as a failure in devotion. This creates a strong sense of moral responsibility. For example, a verse from Bhagavad Gita 9.26 reads like this: पत्रं पुष्पं फलं तोयं यो मे भक्त्या प्रयच्छति तदहं भक्त्युपहृतम् अश्नामि प्रयतात्मनः. Acharya Madhwa's commentary on this reads like this: whatever is offered with devotion, either a leaf or flower or fruit or water, Lord Vishnu accepts this. Therefore, all food must be first dedicated to Lord Vishnu. It implies that Acharya Madhva underscores that every act of eating requires offering. Consumption without this recognition is considered failure in devotion. Then Sankhya philosophy. It presents a naturalistic model, that is, Prakriti's gunas manifest in diet, influencing health and psychology. It is a rational and proto-scientific, though not strongly prescriptive in ethics. Then yoga philosophy. It is intensely practical, stressing ahimsa, moderation, and sattvika diet as supports for meditation. Focuses on lifestyle is highly relevant today. Its focus on lifestyle is highly relevant today, though often individualistic. Together, these schools demonstrate that food is not merely a private act but a philosophical pathway towards purity, devotion, discipline, or liberation. Philosophical foundations of food. Let me begin with the Upanishadic vision. The Taittiriya Upanishad declares, Annam Brahmeti Vyajanat, food is verily Brahma. This is a radical metaphysical statement. Food is not a trivial substance, it is divine reality itself. It continues, Annadhyeva kalvimani bhutani jayante, annena jatani jivanti, annam prayantyabhisamvishanti. From food, indeed, are all beings born, by food they live, and into food they finally return. This declaration places food at the center of existence, presenting it not merely as nourishment but as a principle that sustains creation, maintenance, and dissolution. Eating is thus not a private act but participation in a cosmic cycle of exchange and return. The human body is said to be the Annamaya Kosha, the sheath of food. Without food, there is no body, and without body, there can be no pursuit of dharma, artha, kama, or moksha. From this standpoint, food ethics emerges as a duty of reverence and moderation. To waste or misuse food is to disrupt this cycle, while disciplined and grateful consumption affirms one's place within it. The Upanishadic view, therefore, frames food as simultaneously material, social, and spiritual, binding individual life with the wider rhythms of cosmos. The Chandogya Upanishad takes the discourse further, linking food with chitta. आहारशुद्धौ सत्त्वशुद्धिः सत्त्वशुद्धौ ध्रुवा स्मृतिः स्मृतिलब्धे सर्वगन्तीनां विप्रमोक्षः. When food is pure, the mind becomes pure. When the mind is pure, memory becomes steady. And when memory is steady, all the knots of the hearts are loosened. Here, food functions as an ethical psychological category. Pure intake leads to mental clarity, sattva shuddhi, stable memory, and ultimately liberation. This sequence reflects a general principle of Indian thought that diet influences not only body but also consciousness. Such a framework is consistent with later traditions that insist on moderation, simplicity, and attentiveness in eating. It shows that responsible consumption is foundational for inner stability, ethical clarity, and spiritual progress. Moving forward to Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 3, verses 14 and 15, Lord Krishna explains how Annam arises from rain Rain from yajna, yajna from karma, and karma from eternal order, cycle of yajna. Thus, every morsel of food we consume carries a chain of ethical responsibility, from farmers to rain to cosmic order itself. Moreover, the Gita classifies food into sattvika, rajasa, and tamasa, pure, passionate, and inertial. It links diet directly to the psychological and spiritual states. Here, food is not only nutrition but also character formation. Next, medical and ethical dimensions. The Ayurvedic traditions takes it further by providing a detailed framework for diet and health. Charaka Samhita famously states, Ahara sambhavo va purushaha, the human being is verily made of food. Commentators like Chakrapani explain that food sustains not only the body, that is the sharira, but also conduct, achara. Wrong food leads to disease, but more importantly, it leads to adharma, disturbing the balance of cosmos. Thus, diet is both medical and moral. Then, Sushruta Samhita adds to this. Matrashityam swasthyam. Health depends on measured eating. Moderation is emphasized as a universal law. Excessive consumption, even of good food, it leads to imbalance. This resonates with Bhagavad Gita's message of moderation in eating, sleeping, and recreation as a foundation of yoga. Vagbhata uh, in the in his work Ashtanga Hridaya Samhita stresses that a wholesome diet reduces the need for medicine, while an unwholesome diet is the root of all diseases. In modern language, this is prevention over cure. To take responsibility for food is to take responsibility for one's health and, by extension, for society and ecological well being. Ayurveda therefore integrates three perspectives. First one, food as dravya or substance shaping the body, food as guna, quality shaping the mind, food as karma, shaping the destiny or dharma. Next, food, society and sustainability. From philosophy and medicine, let us now move to socio-ethical dimensions. In classical Indian society, food distribution and sharing was the central to ethics. The Manusmriti and other Dharma Shastras speak of Atiti Bhojana, feeding the guests, the poor, and the renunciate before eating oneself. Food thus becomes a medium of social justice. Waste of food was condemned as adharma. Taittiriya Upanishads in Anandavalli verses 3.7 and 3.10, they declare that Annamna Nindya Tad Vratam, do not revile food, that is the ov. Annamna Parjakshita Tad Vratam, do not discard food, that is ov. This implies that food must never be disrespected, ninda, or wasted, parichakshana, to throw away. The Upanishad explicitly treats dishonoring or wasting food as violation of one's duty, vrata. Manusmriti supports this. Annam na Annancha na atyavamantavyam, food must never be despised, which indicates that waste or disrespect of food is treated as ethically wrong, tied to adharma, because it disrupts hospitality and social order. The logic here is simple. Food is limited, interdependent, and sacred. To consume responsibility is to respect not only one's own health, but the farmer, to protect the farmer, the community, the environment, and the divine order. If we translate this into modern sustainability language, the Gita's Yajna cycle mirrors the circular economy. Nothing is consumed without return or regeneration. Taittiriya Upanishad's model of Annamaya Pranamaya Koshas. They anticipate the modern science of nutrition, linking the food to the life force. And Ayurveda's classical classification of sattva, rajas, tamas diets parallel debates on ultra processed foods, mindful eating, and public health. Contemporary relevance. What lessons can we draw today? First, moderation. Both Ayurveda and the Gita emphasize balance. In today's world of overconsumption, obesity, and waste, this is urgently relevant. Second one, ethical sourcing. The Yajna model demands reciprocity. Just as the ancients avoided violence and impurity in food, we today must consider ecological footprints, animal ethics, and fair trade. Third one, the mindful eating, the sattvika diet corresponds to the modern mindfulness movement. Eating with awareness, not mechanically, is both healthier and spiritually uplifting. Fourth one, food as medicine. Modern preventive healthcare echoes the ancient principle that health begins in kitchen, not the hospital. Finally, social justice. Feeding others, avoiding waste, and ensuring equitable access to food are dharmic obligations that directly connect with Sustainable Development Goal 12, responsible consumption and production. Limitations of this study or the challenges. Classical Indian food ethics offer rich insights, but for four main challenges appear when applying them today. Some scriptural rules like the rejection of onion and garlic may not fit modern nutrition or diverse cultures. The texts assume agrarian context, whereas we face now the industrial or globalized food systems. Different schools of thought interpret food differently, making it hard to form one unified framework. Religious framing may not always work in the secular or multicultural policy spaces. These issues can, however, be addressed through critical hermeneutics, reinterpreting classical principles in ways that speak to contemporary needs. The way forward, IKS for global sustainability. Looking ahead, Indian knowledge systems can guide sustainability in several ways. First one, translate the scriptural ideas into universal ethical terms such as food as sacred, becoming food as ecological responsibility. Use of Ayurvedic principles, moderation, mindful eating, and the preventive dietetics in public health strategies. Introduce IKS food philosophy in schools and universities to promote awareness of sustainable diets. Expand research by combining Samskrita traditions with fields like environmental ethics, economics, and health policy. Place Indian thought in dialogue with the global traditions such as Greek dietetics, Christian fasting, Buddhist mindfulness, and the slow food movement. Encourage the empirical studies on how Ayurvedic diets and Gita inspired food ethics influence real practices like vegetarianism, organic farming, and sustainable living. To conclude, ancient Indian thought unites ahara, food, and achara conduct into a single principle. Food is never private. Eating is an ethical act, a spiritual act, and an ecological act. The Upanishads saw food as Brahman. The Gita made food part of yajna. Ayurveda taught food as medicine. The philosophical schools made food a pathway to liberation, devotion, and discipline. If we internalize these lessons today, we can reimagine food not as a commodity but as sacred sustenance, linking personal health, social harmony, and planetary sustainability. Thank you.